You know, I've heard a bunch of people rave about this episode of Peacemaker, and I just don't see it. Like, this episode has some fantastic elements. Harcourt and Peacemaker's escape from Argus, the bike ride that follows, and everything with Blue Dragon. But man, does this episode have some weird things that just kind of irritate me a little? For starters, the good things, because it's going to sound like I hate this episode. I don't. I still really like it. The episode kicks off with Harcourt and Peacemaker needing to escape Argus. We get a cool minute-long fight with Harcourt and Peacemaker wailing on some Nazis. It was brief, but pretty cool. Then the bike ride scene, which was probably the best scene in the entire episode. You just have Peacemaker and Harcourt as they're being chased by cops, and you see as they realize they don't really have a way out, Harcourt chooses to lean up against Chris and takes his hand as they both seemingly accept that they might not be able to get out of the situation. It was very simple, but done brilliantly, and done to the song Still Pretending, which I thought was a nice choice. Also, we get Vigilante 1 and Vigilante 2 being the funniest thing of the entire episode, and one of the funniest things of the entire season. I love how everyone else is so different, but these two are identical in every way. It was so one-to-one that several times I couldn't tell which one was which. Like, they did such a great job when they show other characters, showing them be... Like, you can clearly tell that it's the same person with a different personality, if that makes sense. Like, Blue Dragon has the same mannerisms as August Smith from Earth 1, but he also sounds nicer. I think back to when he was talking with the cops in Season 1, when they're approaching him about the murder at the beginning of the season, where he kind of tells them to just go fuck off. The way that he speaks is very similar to the way that he talks to the cops when they approach him about Peacemaker committing crimes at Argus. The mannerisms were similar, but the wording was more polite. That's the best way I can describe it, but I really like how they did it. And it was similar with Harcourt, where she's very polite and chipper, but she still has a lot of the same mannerisms as Earth 1 Harcourt. And I really appreciated that little detail about the other characters. And everything with Blue Dragon and Keith was great. This episode really toys with our understanding of this world, and it starts off by making you think that August and Keith are Nazis by revealing that August Smith from Earth X saw August Smith from Earth 1, and he described it as seeing himself from a dark reality, implying that the world that they're in is a perfect society. But then he goes and murders a bunch of cops. And then when he gets back to his house, after saving Harcourt and Chris, he grills Keith for chasing down Adebayo, and then gets offended when Harcourt calls him a Nazi, revealing that in the Nazi world, August Smith is genuinely a great guy who disagrees with the Nazi regime, and he gives a great speech about how he understands that he can't fix all his world's major problems, but he can do what he can to make positive changes and fight evil that's presented to him. And then as the music swells up and he turns his back to a window, the vigilantes break through, and one of them just shanks poor August Smith to death. And this just fucks Keith and Chris up. Keith has not been okay after discovering his brother died. He wants Peacemaker to suffer, but Blue Dragon was the one keeping him stable by reminding him that their Chris was overly aggressive and struggled with substance abuse, and that revenge won't bring him back. They have to keep level heads here. Our heroes were quite literally scot-free because Blue Dragon was reasonable enough to believe Chris when he said the death of Earth X Peacemaker was a genuine accident. But after he dies, Keith loses it, and as the cops burst in and the 11th Street kids are making their escape, Keith breaks through the wall, beating Chris down, and Chris just lets it happen. He is just completely spent after seeing his dad die again, after finding out that he wasn't a Nazi. But then eagerly claws Keith's face while Harcourt, Ads, and Economos hold him down, and Vigilante stabs him while Judo Master beats him, and this guy is just knocking on death's door, and Chris in that moment can only bring himself to scream and yell at everyone to get off his brother. Chris was very clearly reliving the trauma of losing his brother in this moment, and he comes to this false and very sad realization that it's his fault that everyone around him dies. As it flashes back to his brother and Rick Flag and his dad, Peacemaker in this moment believes that because he is a constant in all of these moments, that it's all his fault that people around him are killed. And the episode ends with him turning himself into Argus along with the dimensional portal in exchange for the freedom of his friends. Everything with Peacemaker this episode was brilliant. But this episode did have some major setbacks. Firstly, the runtime is unbelievably short. This episode is only 33 minutes long. It really just feels like this, along with episode 6, should have been one long episode. This season is gonna wind up only being 30 minutes shorter than season 1, but we just had a string of increasingly shorter episodes, and it's just getting kind of annoying. Season 1 was really good about keeping all the episodes above 40 minutes, and each episode felt like it was packed full of so much. Next up, these things are minor, but they just didn't work for me. There's a joke at the beginning where Harcourt points out the obvious clues that they're in a Nazi world, like a certain book or a giant mural of Hitler, and this was just too cartoony. Had they gone more into the joke, like keeping in the bit about the guys with Hitler stashes, then it would have gone over better, but it just makes Chris seem too stupid. Next up, the chase scene with Adebayo. It really does toy with your suspension of disbelief. Like, she is running really far and outrunning much taller guys who are in much better shape. And then when she hops the fence and goes into a backyard, she decides to hop into a pool. It's not a very big pool. She just decides to go in it instead of going around it. And then everyone else who's chasing her, after she gets into the pool, decides to jump in after her. It would not have taken very long to surround her in the pool without having to hop in. The entire scene was just a really contrived way of getting a bunch of people into water so Judo Master could shock a bunch of people to death. Like, it would have been cool had they been able to write it naturally, but they couldn't. That sums up my issues with the episode, though. It was mostly very good. The bad was really just the runtime. Everything else was just nitpicks that I won't give a second thought about. And for once, I actually have no idea where the season finale will go. The way James Gunn talks about it, it seems like we're done with anything Earth X for the season. And the next episode is 57 minutes long, so they have plenty of time to wrap up the season in a satisfying manner. And James Gunn is hyping the absolute hell out of this episode. If it's not in my top 3 of the entire show, I will be disappointed. Guys, if you made it this far into the video, thank you so much. I appreciate that anyone would take the time out of their day to watch my videos. If you enjoyed it, I have a bunch of Peacemaker content on the channel, ranging from The Suicide Squad through Season 1, as well as reviews on Season 2 episodes as they drop. Please consider hitting the like button and subscribe for more content. Thanks for watching and take care.